Equalman. It was such an honor to join you in the Philippines for PLTT. Welcome to today's 7 Super Tips. I am your host, Erik Qualman. A lot of you know me as Equalman. Today we have 7 super tips from Oscar award-winning director Steven Spielberg. It is a perfect time for Spielberg because it's summer movie season. Some of you may know my first job, or one of my first jobs in high school, was working at a movie theater. Awesome job, free popcorn. I'm also fired up for Spielberg because I'm reading a book with my daughters right now by Roald Dahl. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, but the book we're reading right now is BFG. And in 2016, Spielberg made this into a movie. So right now, here are 7 super tips from Oscar award-winning Steven Spielberg.
Atrocities are happening right now. And so we wonder not just when will this hatred end, but how did it begin? Now, I don't have to tell a crowd of Red Sox fans that we are wired for tribalism. But beyond rooting for the home team, tribalism has a much darker side. Instinctively, and maybe even genetically, we divide the world into us and them. So the burning question must be, how do all of us together find the we? How do we do that? There's still so much work to be done, and sometimes I feel the work hasn't even begun. And it's not just anti-Semitism that's surging. Islamophobia is on the rise too, because there's no difference between anyone who is discriminated against, whether it's the Muslims or the Jews or minorities on the border states or the LGBT community. It is all big one hate. And to me, and I think to all of you, the only answer to more hate is more humanity. We gotta repair. We have to replace fear with curiosity. Us and them will find the we by connecting with each other, and by believing that we're members of the same tribe, and by feeling empathy for every soul, even Yaleys.
The first time I sensed that an audience was kind of agreeing with my choice of profession was when I was a Boy Scout, and I went out for the photography merit badge, and I wanted to, and the requirement in the merit badge simply said you have to tell a picture with still photographs. Our still camera broke. I went to the Scoutmaster. I said, can I tell a story with our home movie camera? He said yes, to fulfill the requirements for the merit badge. And I made a little Western called Gunsmog. And I'm really dating myself because, of course, James Arness and Gunsmoke was all the rage on television in those days. And I made this little Western with my sisters and my friends and my next-door neighbors and some of the Boy Scouts. And everybody had cowboy suits because we lived in Arizona, my goodness, you know. And so we all brought our cowboy suits out, and I made this little Western movie and showed it to the Boy Scout troop on a Friday night when we had a meeting, and they went ballistic. They were screaming and clapping and laughing, both with and at the movie. I didn't care. It was a response. And the response set me on fire. It absolutely set me on fire, and I never wanted to live without some kind of affirmation, some kind of collective feedback. And maybe that's why my early movies were all about you. My early movies were all soliciting you, making you my partners, thinking about you behind the camera, thinking what would turn you on, what would get you excited, what would make you laugh, what would make you scream. How could I create suspense out of whole cloth when that darn shark never worked? And you were my partners. My audience, you know, I collaborated with you and you collaborated with me, and I think the beginning of my career I had this wonderful experience, and the thing I really want to emphasize is I didn't have a choice.
Please stay connected. Please never lose eye contact. This may not be a lesson you want to hear from a person who creates media, but we are spending more time looking down at our devices than we are looking in each other's eyes. So Forgive me, but let's start right now. Everyone here, please find someone's eyes to look into. Students and alumni and you too, President Faust. All of you turn to someone you don't know or don't know very well. They may be standing behind you or a couple of rows ahead. Just let your eyes meet. That's it. That emotion you're feeling is our shared humanity mixed in with a little social discomfort. When I was in my early teens, I stayed up all night writing a screenplay and felt something to this day I swear I cannot get enough of. It was as close to the feeling of flying as I have ever had. You know what I mean when you're trying to get the words on paper and you're 3 thoughts ahead of yourself and it's a race to get it all down before it goes back to wherever that stuff originally comes from. And it was called inspiration. And I actually made a movie from that script I wrote all night, and it was called Firelight. And it was truly an awful movie. But the process was what it was all about. The experience of that obsessive focus, of having an idea and actually being able to photograph it. That's been the magic potion for me ever since. Social media that we're inundated and swarmed with is about the here and now. But I've been fighting and fighting inside my own family to get all my kids to look behind them, to look at what already has happened. Because to understand who they are is to understand who we were and who their grandparents were, and then what this country was like when they emigrated here. We are a nation of immigrants, at least for now. So to me, this means we all have to tell our own stories. We have so many stories to tell. Talk to your parents and your grandparents if you can, and ask them about their stories, and I promise you, like I have promised my kids, you will not be bored.
When you have a dream, and the dream isn't something you dream and then it happens, the dream is something you never knew was going to come into your life. Dreams always come from behind you, not right between your eyes. It sneaks up on you. But when you have a dream, it doesn't often come at you screaming in your face, this is who you are, this is what you must be for the rest of your life. Sometimes a dream almost whispers. And I've always said to my kids, the hardest thing to listen to, your instincts, your human personal intuition, always whispers, it never shouts. Very hard to hear. So you have to, every day of your lives, be ready to hear what whispers in your ear. It very rarely shouts. And if you can listen to the whisper, and if it tickles your heart, and it's something you think you want to do for the rest of your life, then that is going to be what you do for the rest of your life, and we will benefit from everything you do.
The first 25 years of our lives, we are trained to listen to voices that are not our own. Parents and professors fill our heads with wisdom and information, and then employers and mentors take their place and explain how this world really works. And usually these voices of authority make sense, but sometimes doubt starts to creep into our heads and into our hearts, and even when we think that's not quite how I see the world, it's kind of easier just to nod in agreement and go along, and for a while I let that going along define my character, because I was repressing my own point of view, because like in that Nilsson song, everybody was talking at me so I couldn't hear the echoes of my mind. And at first, the internal voice I needed to listen to was hardly audible, and it was hardly noticeable, kind of like me in high school. But then I started paying more attention, and my intuition kicked in. And I want to be clear that your intuition is different from your conscience. They work in tandem, but here's the distinction. Your conscience shouts, here's what you should do, while your intuition whispers, here's what you could do. Listen to that voice that tells you what you could do. Nothing will define your character more than that.
Well, I hope you're enjoying your summer, and I hope you're enjoying some summer movies, but most importantly, I hope you're enjoying our 7 Super Tips show. And today's episode was with Steven Spielberg, so my hope is that his 7 Super Tips will help unlock and unleash your inner superpower, because that's what this show is all about. So until next time, remember, it's not what you take from the world, it's what you leave behind.